From hijacking an oil tanker in Puerto Rico to accessing a pseudo-mined palace to render a crash, the Fast and Furious was always ridiculous, long before the arrival of Fast 5. Here's the thing about this franchise, right? It's regarded as one of the most ridiculous movie franchises in the world, and rightfully so. Some of the stunts are just a tad bit too crazy. Like this time, Hobbs, Dwayne Johnson's character, used his hand to divert a freaking nuke. When it comes to being ridiculous, Fast 5 is known as the pivotal movie, in which the franchise finally lost its understanding of basic physics. Everything became kinda outrageous, to be honest. But the thing is, that's what we think. Turns out, it was always kinda silly, now wasn't it? Look, I know a lot has changed since the original movie.
Dom, put the gun down now!
That aired in 2001, but while the franchise's focus may have moved from underground LA street racing to firing Ludacris and Tyrese into space, each movie has stuck to the basics, which are full action, at the expense of realism more often than not. So in the fifth movie of the franchise, you'll notice that there's an awesome safe chase. Well, that's the moment after which the franchise goes into fantasy and kinda becomes a meme. But here's the thing, there are still several earlier moments that prove that this had happened long before the fifth movie. I'll be honest here, everything that happened before the fifth movie, while it was action-packed, was less high stakes than freaking nukes and cyber terrorism. Here, I'll talk about 6 moments that prove that this franchise has always been kinda off the rails, and that this isn't exactly new for these guys. Starting with the train race, The Fast and the Furious. The first ever Fast and Furious movie is kinda not known for the best of things. That's cause there's a similar movie called Point Break with cars, and well, the Fast movie has been accused of copying that. Anyway, as expected, that movie had several questionable driving sequences, but nothing, absolutely nothing, beats the film's cinematic train race. So after building up tension between Brian and Dom, the movie finally shows them drag racing side by side. First of all, it's a quarter-mile race, and these guys are racing in cars that are supposed to cover this distance within 10 seconds. But how long does the scene last? Well, it lasts 100 seconds. I did the math, so you won't have to. The duo is moving at a measly 9 miles per hour. We also see Dom's car tilt up into the air, and of course, multiple uses of NOS. Brian and Dom then simultaneously cross the line ahead of a speeding train, and while Dom does manage to cross the train, he later hits a truck because he's too busy looking at Brian and crashes horribly. Does he walk out without a scratch though? Yes he does. And if you think this scene defied the laws of physics, wait till you see the next one, the one where everyone's drifting around a car park in Tokyo. First, basing an entire movie around the concept of drifting is preposterous. But that didn't stop the third movie from proving that the fastest route between 2 points is often not a straight line. But the fastest way is to move at a 45-degree angle, destroying as many tires as possible. Before anything, let's talk about Sean, and how when he first arrives at the drifting scene, he doesn't know jack. He tries his best to drift, but it's just not something he can do. So he crashes into multiple objects at high speed, and walks out perfectly fine as if nothing happens. Then DK, the protagonist, drifts up a spiraling drive and ends up breaking all laws of gravity. Now, it's understandable that you gotta have some moments for dramatic effect, but this movie does break all the laws of physics. Speaking of breaking the laws of physics though, remember the boat jump scene from the second movie? So these movies, right, what they've done is they've carved out their own niche. Whether it's people, other cars, or catching cars with giant magnets, the point is, almost almost every movie has a scene where a vehicle is used as an Olympic athlete. So, in Too Fast, Too Furious, in the end, there's a scene where the bad guy's getting away in a boat, and Brian and his friend Roman need to catch him as soon as possible. Now, he's already in the waters, so what do they decide to do? They jump up a ramp while driving, fly across the lake, land on the boat, and then, of course, catch the bad guy. So far, I've talked about the things that have defied the laws of physics, but this scene, while it didn't defy any science, was crazy in its way. The rat bucket scene from the second movie. While the bad guy is trying to persuade a detective to give him a window so the bad guy could deliver drugs, the bad guy places a rat in a bucket and then places that bucket on the detective's stomach. Then he heats the bucket from the outside, so the rat starts eating the guy's stomach for freedom. It's a gruesome scene, and it goes to show that the franchise has always been kinda crazy. Speaking of crazy, remember the time when Dom played a detective? Now, this might not seem too out there, but trust me, it was ridiculous. In Fast and Furious 4, which happens to be one of the weakest movies in the series, Dom all of a sudden turns into Sherlock Holmes. This just goes to show how silly the movie can be. Not because he turns into a detective, but because of the way he does the job. So his long-term girlfriend, Letty, dies while going undercover to a drug smuggling ring. She dies because of a crash, so Dom, of course, goes to the site to inspect it properly. He's standing in the middle of the road at night, and that's when he uses tire marks to recreate a video of how the crash happened. No, that's exactly what he does. Then he touches something on the ground and suddenly realizes what it is and where it's sold. No lab tech, no analysis, no nothing. Just pure vibes. But for the Last Supper ridiculous scene, let's go back to breaking physics, the tanker dodge scene. So from the last couple of things that I talked about, I'm sure you learned that the quieter scenes are also quite silly. But at the end of the day, that's not what the franchise is known for. No, it's known for some out-of-this-world stunts and for breaking the laws of physics. Look, Fast 5 is known for putting the franchise on this track, yes, but there's nothing in that movie that's as crazy as what happens in the opening scene of the fourth film. This movie begins with Dom and his crew hijacking an oil tanker in Puerto Rico. Things don't go too well for the family, because the truck driver realizes what's going on and starts shooting at Letty, who's on the truck. So Dom drives onto the scene to catch Letty with her car. Of course. But then here's what happens. Dom somehow perfectly times his escape from a spinning, exploding trailer to slide right underneath it and make his way to safety. The trailer later catches on fire, but Dom is, as expected, all okay. And these were moments that prove that Fast and Furious was always ridiculous, even before Fast 5.